Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into the world of coins, specifically, the iconic 1965 Roosevelt dime. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting your numismatic journey, this coin has a fascinating history and some intriguing aspects to consider. We'll be talking about its design, history, and most importantly, its current value in circulation. So, grab your magnifying glass, and let's get started. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, following his passing in 1945. This was a significant change, as it replaced the winged Liberty Head dime, also known as the Mercury dime, which had been in circulation since 1916. The Roosevelt dime was designed by John R. Sinek, the chief engraver at the U.S. Mint. The obverse features a left-facing portrait of Roosevelt, and on the reverse, you'll see a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, symbols of peace and strength. Now, let's focus on the 1965 version. This year marked a significant shift in U.S. coinage due to the Coinage Act of 1965. The act removed silver from dimes, quarters, and half dollars, replacing it with a copper-nickel alloy. This was done to address the rising cost of silver and the increasing demand for coins. So, what exactly is the 1965 Roosevelt dime made of? Unlike earlier issues, which were composed of 90% silver, the 1965 dime is made of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This gives the coin a distinctive look and feel compared to its silver counterparts. This alloy made the dime more durable and less expensive to produce, but it also meant that the coin was no longer made of precious metal, which affected its intrinsic value. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about how much this dime is worth today. Now, you might be wondering, what is the value of the 1965 Roosevelt dime today? Well, if you happen to find one of these coins in your pocket change, it's still going to be worth just 10 cents, its face value. However, the value changes if the coin is in uncirculated condition or if it's a rare variety. While the 1965 dime is still relatively common in circulation, some collectors are interested in coins that show little to no wear, which can command a premium. Speaking of rare varieties, while the 1965 Roosevelt dime isn't considered a major key date, there are some minor errors and variations that can add value to a specific coin. For instance, there are known varieties where the mint mark, for Denver or for San Francisco, appears in different positions or even slightly different shapes. While these types of variations are subtle, they can make certain coins more valuable to collectors. The real standout factor for a 1965 dime's value comes from its condition. Coin collectors and dealers use a grading system to determine the condition of a coin. A 1965 Roosevelt dime that's been heavily circulated, meaning it shows signs of wear and tear, will typically only be worth its face value or just a little more. But, coins that have been preserved in excellent condition, such as mint state, can fetch higher prices, ranging anywhere from $1 to $5 depending on demand and market conditions. Some coins might even fetch a bit more if they are graded higher, such as or better. But remember, since millions of these dimes were minted, the rarity factor isn't as strong as it is with other coins, making the 1965 Roosevelt dime a relatively affordable option for most collectors. Even though the 1965 Roosevelt dime may not be worth much in its regular circulated state, it's still an important piece of American coinage history. It marked the in-your-pocket change, or you're actively hunting for higher-grade versions. This coin is a great example of how coin collecting isn't just about the value, it's about the history and the stories these little pieces of metal tell us. When it comes to coins, the condition or grade is a critical factor in determining its value, especially for collectors. The 1965 Roosevelt dime is no exception. Here's a breakdown of how the condition of the coin impacts its value. A coin in these conditions will show significant wear and tear. Features like Roosevelt's portrait will be less defined, and the details on the reverse side, the torch, olive, and oak branches, will be worn down. A coin in this state is typically worth its face value, 10 cents. At this level, you might see more noticeable wear, but the main features of the coin, like Roosevelt's face and the details of the reverse, are still visible. While it's a bit more worn, this coin still usually holds face value or a small premium of around 20 cents to 50 cents depending on market conditions. About uncirculated, an AU coin shows only minor signs of wear, particularly on high points like Roosevelt's cheek or the torch. The overall appearance is still quite crisp, and collectors will pay a little more for this coin. An AU-graded 1965 Roosevelt dime might be valued anywhere from $1 to $2. This is where the coin starts to stand out. In mint state, the coin has never been circulated, meaning it's pristine and shows no wear. A coin may still have slight imperfections or contact marks from minting, but the design is sharp and the luster remains. MS 63 examples of the 1965 Roosevelt dime could sell for around $2 to $5. Higher grades coins graded MS 65 or better are very well preserved and could show slight imperfections or blemishes, but they still have excellent luster and sharp details. A MS 65 or MS 66 1965 Roosevelt dime can be worth anywhere from $5 to $15, depending on the market, how crisp and clear the coin. State or higher grades, you can expect to see values rise significantly, ranging from $1 to $15 or more depending on its specific condition. Collectors often look for those in excellent shape to add to their collections. 1965 Roosevelt dime is a significant coin in U.S. numismatic history, both because of the changes in its composition and the legacy of the man it honors. Here's an in-depth look at its history. The Roosevelt dime was introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who passed away in 1945. Roosevelt was beloved for his leadership during the Great Depression and World War II. As part of the tribute to him, the U.S. Mint decided to replace the Mercury dime, which had been in circulation since 1916, with a new design. The coin was designed by John R. Sinek, the chief engraver at the U.S. Mint. Sinek's design featured a left-facing portrait of Roosevelt on the obverse, front, of the coin. On the reverse, back, the design included a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, which symbolized by the early 1960s, the rising price of silver led to a shortage of silver coins. Many people began hoarding silver coins, and by 1965, the government was faced with a shortage of the raw material needed to mint coins. In response, the Coinage Act of 1965 was passed, which eliminated silver from the composition of dimes, quarters, and half dollars. Before this act, dimes contained 90% silver, but the 1965 Roosevelt dime, along with other coins, was struck from a new alloy consisting of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This change was primarily made to reduce production costs and prevent silver hoarding, as the price of silver was rising rapidly. This was a major turning point for U.S. coinage. While many other coins still carried silver content for a few more years, the Roosevelt dime became the first dime to be made from a non-silver alloy since its inception in 1796. The design of the Roosevelt dime didn't change in 1965, it continued to feature mint mark. In most years, dimes are stamped with a mint mark indicating the city in which they were produced, either Denver, S for San Francisco, or no mint mark for Philadelphia. But for the 1965 dimes, due to the urgent demand for coinage, the mint mark was dropped from this coin. It wasn't until 1968 that the mint mark returned to the Roosevelt dime. The 1965 Roosevelt dime was produced in large quantities due to the Coinage Act. A total of over 1 billion 1965 dimes were minted that year. These coins circulated widely and were a significant part of everyday transactions in the U.S. throughout the 1960s, 1970s, and beyond. For many years, the 1965 Roosevelt dime was simply worth 10 cents in everyday transactions, as it was primarily used for small purchases. However, as time passed, the coin became an important part of U.S. history, and today, it remains a staple in coin collections, especially for those who focus on the complete set of Roosevelt dimes. The Roosevelt dime serves as a lasting tribute to Franklin D. Roosevelt's leadership during one of the most difficult periods in American history. The coin's design continues to symbolize the values Roosevelt embodied: strength, resilience, and peace. The fact that the Roosevelt dime was struck in 1965, the same year that the U.S. switched from silver to a copper-nickel alloy, makes it a significant marker of a pivotal point in American monetary history. While the 1965 Roosevelt dime doesn't carry any silver content, unlike earlier versions, it remains a key coin for collectors of U.S. dimes. In terms of circulated coins, it holds little value beyond its face value, but higher-grade uncirculated examples may fetch a small premium in the market, typically ranging from $1 to $5 depending on condition. The 1965 Roosevelt dime was introduced as part of the shift away from silver in U.S. coinage due to the Coinage Act of 1965. The dime was made from copper-nickel alloy for the first time, marking a key change in U.S. coinage. While the coin's design did not change, the shift to copper-nickel dimes signaled a new era in U.S. currency. Today, the 1965 Roosevelt dime is valued more for its historical significance rather than its material content, making it an important part of any collection focused on U.S. coins or the Roosevelt era. The 1965 Roosevelt dime is a fascinating coin for collectors, historians, and those interested in the changes that shaped U.S. coinage. It's not just a coin, it's a piece of American history. Its condition. A coin in circulated condition, meaning it has been in regular use and shows some wear, won't fetch much more than face value. However, if your coin is in uncirculated or proof condition, it can be worth significantly more. So, how do you determine the value of your 1969 Roosevelt dime? Coin collectors use a grading scale to assess the condition of a coin. The scale ranges from good to mint state grades, with being the highest grade. Coins in better condition, especially those with minimal wear and good details, are more valuable than heavily worn ones. An uncirculated 1969 dime in mint condition can be worth upwards of $1 to $2, depending on the demand and where you're selling it. And if you happen to find a 1969 dime with a unique feature or error, the value could go much higher. Speaking of errors, you might be wondering if there's any way to find a rare 1969 Roosevelt dime worth more than just a few cents. Well, there are some valuable varieties of this coin, particularly error coins. Some 1969 dimes were struck with errors like double dies or were misaligned, which can make them much more valuable. These rare errors can sometimes be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars if found in high-grade condition. So, you have a 1969 Roosevelt dime and you want to sell it. What are your options? You could go to a coin dealer, or you can check out online platforms like eBay, where you can sell your coin to interested buyers. Just remember, condition matters. A well-preserved coin can fetch a premium price. Also, be sure to check recent sales of similar coins to get a feel for current market trends. And don't forget to have your coin professionally graded. If you think it could be rare or valuable, it might pay off in the long run. When discussing the value of coins, condition is one of the most important factors that determines its worth. Coin condition is assessed through a grading system that helps collectors and dealers evaluate a coin's quality based on its appearance, wear, and overall state. The condition of a coin can dramatically impact its value, especially for rare or collectible coins. Here's an overview of how condition works in the context of the 1969 Roosevelt dime. The most common grading system for coins is the Sheldon scale, which ranges from 1 to 70. The higher the grade, the better the condition. Here's a breakdown of the main grades. The coin is heavily worn, with significant details and inscriptions almost completely worn off. For example, in a 1969 Roosevelt dime, Roosevelt's face may be worn smooth, and the text on the coin might be barely legible. This coin will typically have only face value or a small premium. The coin is still heavily worn but with some details still visible. Roosevelt's image and the text may be faint but recognizable. This is still a relatively low-value coin, though it may sell for slightly more than face value. Depending on demand, the coin has been circulated but retains a fair amount of detail. Some finer details, like hair strands or parts of the olive branch, may be visible. A fine-condition 1969 Roosevelt dime can fetch a little more than face value, though it's still a common coin. The coin shows noticeable wear, but the design is still clear. The facial features of Roosevelt and the other details on the reverse side are well defined. Slightly higher than face value but not a major premium. The coin has very little wear, with sharp details. Some minor wear may be noticeable, especially on the high points of the design, like the cheek or hair. Coins in this grade might be worth about $1 to $2, depending on their mint mark and demand. An uncirculated 1969 Roosevelt dime could be worth anywhere from $1 to $2, but coins in top condition can reach higher premiums, especially if they have been graded by a reputable service like the Professional Coin Grading Service or Numismatic Guarantee Corporation. A proof coin is specially struck using polished dies and high-quality blanks, and it's often made for collectors rather than for circulation. Proof coins have a mirror-like finish and intricate details. A 1969 proof Roosevelt dime could be worth significantly more than a regular circulated version, depending on the rarity and grade. The more a coin has been used in circulation, the more worn it will be. High points, like Roosevelt's nose or the edges of the branches on the reverse, typically wear down first. Surface damage, scratches, nicks, or discoloration from environmental factors can lower a coin's grade. Minting defects. Some coins may have flaws from the minting process, such as double dyes or misstrikes, which can sometimes increase their value depending on the rarity of the error. For the 1969 Roosevelt dime, the vast majority in circulation are in lower grades like good or fine because of their age and heavy circulation. These coins usually hold little premium above face value. However, uncirculated or proof coins in mint state can be more valuable, especially if they're well preserved. For example, an uncirculated 1969 Roosevelt dime in or higher could sell for $10 or more, especially if the coin has been certified and graded by a professional service. In summary, the condition of the 1969 Roosevelt dime will determine its market value. Coins in lower grades, like good or fine, are worth little more than face value, while coins in higher grades can be worth significantly more, especially if they are free from wear or surface damage. Always check your coin's condition, and, if you think it may be rare or in excellent condition, consider getting it professionally graded. The Roosevelt dime was introduced in 1946 to honor the late President Franklin D. Roosevelt ***, following his death in 1945. Roosevelt had been instrumental in the creation of the March of Dimes, an organization dedicated to combating polio, a disease that had significantly impacted his life. As a result, the Roosevelt dime became a fitting tribute to his legacy. The Roosevelt dime replaced the Mercury dime, which had been in circulation since 1916. The decision to feature Roosevelt on the new dime was made shortly after his death, and the U.S. Mint began production of the Roosevelt dime in 1946. The Roosevelt dime quickly became one of the most recognized coins in American currency, not only for its design but also for its association with Roosevelt's contributions to the country. The 1969 Roosevelt dime was part of the ongoing series of dimes minted from 1946 onwards. It was struck in large quantities to meet the demand for coins in circulation. In 1969, the U.S. Mint produced hundreds of millions of these dimes at several different minting locations, including the total mintage of the 1969 Roosevelt dime is significant, with over 500 million dimes produced across all mints, making it a common coin in circulation. This widespread circulation means that most 1969 dimes are not particularly rare or valuable in average condition. The Roosevelt dime has undergone several changes in its composition over the years. The 1969 Roosevelt dime was made primarily from a copper-nickel CLA composition, which consists of a core of copper surrounded by a thin layer of nickel on both sides. Here are the specifications for the 1969 dime. The year 1969 was a significant one in American history, and the release of the 1969 Roosevelt dime occurred during a time of great social and political change. Some notable events of that year include the moon landing in July 1969. The Apollo 11 mission successfully landed astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin on the moon, marking a historic achievement for the United States and the space program. The conflict in Vietnam continued, leading to protests and widespread social unrest across the U.S. These events, however, had little impact on the design or production of the 1969 Roosevelt dime. The coin was primarily produced for everyday circulation and was not part of any special commemorative series, while the basic design of the Roosevelt dime has remained largely unchanged since its introduction in 1946. There have been some small modifications over the years. Notably, in 1965, the composition of the dime was changed from 90% silver to the copper-nickel clad composition used in the 1969 Roosevelt dime. This change was made to combat the rising cost of silver. The 1969 dimes continued to be produced in large quantities, but unlike earlier issues, the shift to a copper-nickel composition meant the coins were more affordable to mint and more durable in circulation. The 1969 Roosevelt dime, along with other issues in the Roosevelt dime series, remains one of the most popular and widely collected coins in the United States. Its iconic design and connection to the legacy of Franklin D. Roosevelt continue to make it a sought-after piece for collectors and numismatists. Although the 1969 dime itself is not considered rare, it serves as a key part of the Roosevelt dime series, which is still minted today. The coin's role in American currency is a testament to the lasting impact of Roosevelt. 1992 Roosevelt dime. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just getting started, understanding the value of this dime and its place in circulation is key. Let's get into it. The Roosevelt dime was first minted in 1946, just after President Franklin D. Roosevelt's death, in honor of his legacy. It's been a staple in U.S. currency for decades. But today, we're specifically focusing on the 1992 version. Why? Because, like any coin, its value can fluctuate depending on various factors like condition, rarity, and whether it's been kept in circulation. First, let's talk about the basic circulation value of a 1992 Roosevelt dime. The face value of this coin is, of course, 10 cents. In general, unless the coin is in pristine, uncirculated condition, it will only be worth 10 cents in daily transactions. Just like any other collectible coin, the condition of your 1992 Roosevelt dime plays a huge role in determining its value. A coin in circulated condition, meaning it's been used in daily transactions, will typically be worth only the value it carries, 10 cents. These coins are widely available, so finding one in circulation won't fetch you more than a dime. Now, if you happen to come across a 1992 dime that's in uncirculated condition, meaning it looks as fresh as it did when it was first minted, that coin could fetch anywhere from 25 to 50 cents depending on its quality. Error coins are another thing to look out for. For example, a 1992 Roosevelt dime that has a minting mistake, such as misaligned dies or a doubled die, could potentially be worth more than its face value. Some error coins can be sold for several dollars, depending on the rarity and the demand from collectors. If you find an error coin, it's definitely worth doing some research. You might be sitting on a small treasure. In addition to the regular circulation dimes, the 1992 Roosevelt dime was also included in proof sets. These special editions were made with a higher, proof-like condition, with any unique errors adding to the intrigue. Or most casual collectors, though, a circulated 1992 dime will remain worth just 10 cents unless it's part of a larger collection or a more specialized market. As of today, the market for 1992 Roosevelt dimes in circulated condition remains relatively stable. However, as with any coin, the market can fluctuate based on demand and the overall interest in Roosevelt dimes. So, it's a good idea to keep an eye on collector auctions or online marketplaces for updates on pricing. So, while a regular 1992 Roosevelt dime might not be worth more than 10 cents in everyday transactions, it's still an important piece of U.S. history and can hold value depending on its condition, errors, or inclusion in a special set. When it comes to the condition of coins, including the 1992 Roosevelt dime, collectors and numismatists use a grading scale to determine their quality and potential value. Here's a breakdown of the primary coin grades that impact a coin's value. These are the lowest grades for coins. They are very worn and may have barely visible details, with the date and other features hard to read. These coins generally only hold face value unless they have an unusual error, making them worth more to collectors. Coins in this range show moderate wear, with the major details on the coin still visible, but with quite a bit of flattening. These dimes usually don't command a premium and often remain around their face value unless rare or in demand. Coins graded fine have light, even wear, with some details still intact, although some raised areas might be worn down. In most cases, these dimes are worth just face value, but better than lower-grade coins for modest collectors. These coins show moderate wear with more visible details than fine coins, and the lettering and date are clearer. A very fine Roosevelt dime might hold a slight premium, though usually not more than 10 to 20 cents. Coins graded extremely fine have very minimal wear and clear, well-defined details. Only the highest parts of the design show wear. These coins might start to see a slight premium in value, especially for collectors wanting a well-preserved example. Dimes in this grade may be worth a few times more than their face value but are still generally affordable. These coins are specially minted with a mirror-like finish and are often highly detailed. Proof coins are generally made for collectors and are not meant for circulation. A 1992 Roosevelt proof dime can be worth several dollars, especially if it's in perfect condition. Proof dimes are valued higher than circulated versions due to their unique finish and limited mintage. Look for any major wear or scratches. Heavy wear lowers the coin's grade. Original, uncirculated coins have a shiny, almost reflective luster. The more visible the details, especially on Roosevelt's face, the higher the grade likely is. Even a dime in circulated condition may hold extra value if it's an error or proof coin. The Roosevelt dime has an interesting history that intertwines both American numismatics and the legacy of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Here's a look into the background of this iconic coin and its place in U.S. history. The Roosevelt dime was introduced in 1946 to honor Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had passed away in 1945. Roosevelt had been president during the Great Depression and World War II and was beloved by many Americans for his New Deal policies and wartime leadership. Another reason for choosing Roosevelt was his association with the March of Dimes campaign, which he helped promote to fight polio. The March of Dimes initiative was instrumental in funding research that eventually led to a vaccine for polio, a disease Roosevelt himself had battled. The design was created by John R. Sinek, chief engraver of the United States Mint, who also designed Roosevelt's image for the dime. The obverse side of the dime features Roosevelt's profile, while the reverse showcases a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. The Roosevelt dime was unique because it replaced the Mercury dime, a much-admired design by sculptor Adolph A. Weinman. While some initially missed the artistic flair of the Mercury dime, Roosevelt's image was widely accepted as a fitting tribute. The original Roosevelt dimes, from 1946 until 1964, were struck in 90% silver and 10% copper. However, in 1965, amid a nationwide silver shortage and increasing costs of minting, the U.S. Mint transitioned the dime to a copper-nickel-clad composition, 75% copper and 25% nickel, removing silver from circulating dimes. This shift in metal composition applied to other coins, like quarters and half dollars, though silver was retained for certain special minting purposes. By 1992, the Roosevelt dime had become a staple of American currency. Although it was no longer made of silver, it continued to play a vital role in everyday transactions and retained the same design with only slight modifications over the years. This particular year also saw the release of the dime in proof sets, which had a higher quality strike and finish intended for collectors. In 1992, the U.S. Mint began reintroducing silver proof sets, which meant that for the first time since 1964, collectors could obtain a silver version of the Roosevelt dime, minted in 90% silver. Specifically for these sets, the Roosevelt dime remains in circulation today, with its design largely unchanged since 1946. It's a reminder of Roosevelt's impact on American society and his commitment to public health and welfare. Beyond just a coin, the Roosevelt dime represents a legacy of resilience and hope for many Americans. The dime continues to be a subject of interest among coin collectors, particularly those searching for error coins, proof versions, and silver compositions that increase their collectible value. 1946 Introduction of the Roosevelt dime, replacing the Mercury dime. 1965 Transition from silver to copper-nickel composition in all circulating dimes. 1992 Reintroduction of the silver Roosevelt dime in limited proof sets for collectors. The Roosevelt dime endures as the longest-used design in U.S. dime history, paying tribute to one of the country's most impactful leaders. 1997 Roosevelt dime. Whether you're a coin collector or just someone who's come across one in your spare change, we'll explore its history, design, minting details, and what this coin might be worth today if it's been in circulation. So, let's get started. The Roosevelt dime first made its appearance in 1946, replacing the Mercury dime. The coin was created as a tribute to Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States, shortly after he passed away. Roosevelt was not only a highly respected leader but also a champion of the fight against polio, a cause that resonated deeply with many Americans. The March of Dimes Foundation, which aimed to combat polio, actually inspired the choice of the dime denomination to honor his legacy. Now, let's take a look at the design. On the front, or obverse, of the 1997 Roosevelt dime, we see a profile of President Roosevelt facing left. This design has remained largely unchanged since its inception, and it was created by John R. Sinek, the chief engraver of the United States Mint at the time. Flip the coin over to the reverse side, and you'll find symbols of strength, liberty, and peace represented by the olive branch, torch, and oak branch. The words, United States of America, and the coin's denomination, 1 dime, are inscribed here as well. These elements together represent the values Roosevelt held dear. So, let's talk about the mints. The 1997 Roosevelt dimes were produced at 2 primary locations, Philadelphia and Denver. If your coin was minted in Philadelphia, it will either have no mint mark or a P mark located to the right of Roosevelt's neck. If it was minted in Denver, you'll see a small d instead. A total of over 2.3 billion dimes were struck that year, with around 1.5 billion from Philadelphia and 811 million from Denver. With such high mintage numbers, this coin is quite common. Alright, now for the big question, what's a 1997 Roosevelt? Truth is, most people don't see it as a collectible on its own. But some collectors enjoy creating date runs, where they collect 1 dime from each year, or they may aim to collect 1 from each mint location. Even though the coin isn't rare, it can still be a part of a broader collection that represents American history. And here's a fun fact, the Roosevelt dime has been in circulation for over 75 years now, and it's the only circulating US coin that has remained mostly unchanged since it was first introduced. Many Americans may not realize it, but every time they see a dime, they're holding a piece of history. So, there you have it. While a 1997 Roosevelt dime might not bring in big bucks, it's a fascinating piece of US coinage that connects us to Franklin D. Roosevelt's legacy and an era of resilience in American history. Remember, even common coins have their stories, and they're worth appreciating. If you enjoyed this dive into the 1997 Roosevelt dime, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more videos about coins and collectibles. Thanks for watching, and let us know in the comments if you have any interesting Roosevelt dimes or other unique coins. See you in the next video.